Today we are diving into the world of Arianespace, one of the most established players in the global space industry. If you've ever wondered what it takes to launch satellites, power space exploration, or build the infrastructure for a thriving space economy, stick around. We're going to break down everything from Arianespace's mission to its future plans. Let's start with Arianespace's mission, vision, and values. Arianespace isn't just a space company, it's Europe's lifeline to the stars. Their mission is clear: ensure independent access to space for Europe. And that's not just a tagline, it's a real responsibility. They aren't playing in the minor leagues here. They're providing launch services for satellites, research missions, and sometimes critical military operations. Their vision? To push Europe forward in the space race and ensure the continent remains a key player. Arianespace operates with precision, responsibility, and boldness, which makes sense when your business is literally rocket science. They stand for reliability in a world where a single failure can mean millions of dollars, or worse, down the drain. Now, let's talk products and services. Arianespace is best known for its launch services. They have a fleet of rockets, each serving a different purpose. There's Ariane, their heavy lift workhorse, designed for massive payloads like telecommunication satellites and large space missions. Then you have Vega, which handles smaller payloads, which are ideal for Earth observation satellites. And in the middle sits Soyuz, which tackles those medium-range missions. But it doesn't stop with launching rockets. Arianespace also contributes to satellite manufacturing, and they're eyeing the future. Space mining. Yes, space mining. Extracting resources from asteroids is more than science fiction. It's a potential multi-billion-dollar industry, and Arianespace is positioning itself to get in early. So, what sets them apart from the crowd? Well, one thing is their commitment to technology. The Ariane rockets are a feat of engineering. While some companies might be racing to churn out launches, Arianespace focuses on reliability. They've built a reputation over decades for delivering payloads safely and on time. Another major factor? Their partnerships. They're deeply embedded in Europe's space infrastructure, working hand in hand with the European Space Agency, governments, and private companies. Arianespace isn't just a lone wolf. They thrive through collaboration, which gives them a competitive edge. Now let's move on to their key market segments. The first and perhaps the most obvious one is government agencies. We're talking about the European Space Agency, NASA, and even national governments looking to launch defense or research missions. Arianespace is their go-to, but don't forget about commercial clients. Telecommunication companies rely heavily on satellites, whether it's for GPS, data, or broadcasting services. And companies in agriculture, defense, and energy all need eyes in the sky. And then there are the new space startups. These are the emerging players looking to capitalize on space tourism, asteroid mining, and other ventures that were once thought impossible. Arianespace is positioning itself to serve this fast-growing market, whether it's launching a satellite for a defense contractor or sending a payload into orbit for a startup with an eye on space tourism. They're well positioned to serve multiple sectors. Now, let's break down their business model. Arianespace's revenue primarily comes from contract-based deals. When you're launching satellites or managing critical missions for a government, those contracts can be worth hundreds of millions of dollars. They also have potential subscription-based models in the works, particularly around satellite servicing and maintenance. And the costs? Well, space isn't cheap. Research and development are constant and expensive, not to mention production, maintenance, and regulatory compliance. You've got to factor in everything from building rockets to maintaining facilities and even ensuring compliance with both national and international space laws. And speaking of compliance, Arianespace is all about strategic partnerships. They collaborate with research institutions, private companies, and space agencies to share costs, pool resources, and maximize expertise. These partnerships can help lower operational costs and ensure that they stay ahead in an industry where margins can be razor thin. Now, let's talk about the regulatory environment. Space is one of the most highly regulated industries on the planet, and off the planet for that matter. The Outer Space Treaty, national space laws, and various aerospace standards all come into play. Arianespace complies with both international and domestic regulations, whether it is for satellite launches, spectrum usage, or potentially space mining. Licensing requirements are strict, but Arianespace has the experience and expertise to navigate this complex regulatory landscape. They know how to get those launches approved and ensure everything is up to standard. When you're dealing with multi-million-dollar payloads and sometimes national security interests, there's no room for error. Of course, every business faces challenges, and the space sector is no different. And one of the biggest challenges? Capital. It costs a small fortune to develop rockets, maintain facilities, and train specialists. Plus, the timelines can be long. Developing a new rocket or satellite system isn't something you can whip up in a year. Then there's risk management. Technical failures can be catastrophic. A single failed launch could result in the loss of hundreds of millions of dollars, not to mention damage to your reputation. And don't forget about regulatory risks. New laws or regulations can change the landscape in an instant. And then there's competition. Barriers to entry in the space industry are high because of research and development costs, the need for specialized knowledge, and, of course, the enormous amount of capital required just to get started. And yet, despite these barriers, new players are constantly emerging, which means Arianespace needs to stay sharp. But where there are challenges, there are also opportunities. The advancements in reusable rockets are reducing costs across the board. This could open the door for more frequent launches and even more clients. There's a growing demand for commercial space opportunities. Satellite internet is one of the most obvious ones, but space tourism is also on the rise. And don't forget space resources like asteroid mining, which is expected to be a game changer for the space economy. Governments and private companies are increasingly collaborating to reduce costs and share risks, meaning public-private partnerships are going to play a major role in future growth. Arianespace is already well ahead in this regard, with a strong network of collaborators across sectors. Now let's shift gears and talk about sustainability and ethics in space. One of the biggest issues facing the industry is space debris. There are thousands of pieces of junk floating around in Earth's orbit, and that number grows with every launch. Arianespace is committed to sustainable practices, ensuring that its missions don't contribute to the growing problem of space debris. And ethical considerations also come into play when it comes to resource extraction, like asteroid mining. Extracting resources from space must be done in a way that doesn't create environmental disasters. And that is why Arianespace works to comply with environmental impact assessments and best practices to ensure space exploration and exploitation remain sustainable. So, who are the big players in this industry? Aside from Arianespace, you've got private companies like SpaceX and Blue Origin, government bodies like NASA and the ESA, and international organizations that oversee space activities. But investors are just as critical. Venture capital and funding sources are becoming increasingly important as the space economy expands. And then there's academia. Research institutions are vital collaborators in this industry, developing the technology and expertise that companies like Arianespace rely on. So, where do you see Arianespace and the broader space economy going in the next decade? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Like and share this video to help it launch, and join our Discord server, which you can access in the link in the description. This has been Gene of the Space Guild. End transmission.